really want to talk about Vampire Esports, man. Because even though they didn't end up getting the chicken dinner here, I feel like we saw some great stuff out of them, though. And hopefully we get a chance to see it here in the next game.
Yeah, you won't have time to talk about it now, but we'll save that one for coming up later on here after our third match of the day is going to kick off with John Allen and Blank once again.
The second of our Erangels today. 3 on the cards, but this is the middleman. We are going to head from that southwest side near Primorsk all the way over to Milta Power on the east edge. Blank, it's quite a southern lilt to it.
Yeah, you could say that. I think this thing is very much down towards that south side. Something has pulled it with the hook over towards Sosnovka, which is going to make some of these teams a little bit more sad about the whole situation, because getting towards that north side now made way, way more difficult. We do know there's a lot of teams here that like to get up towards that northern edge. We saw that on the last game where this playing path actually forced a lot of teams over towards that western side. We had a very, very free edge over towards the east side of the map. This time around, it's going to be shooting range, North George, Severny style with Yasnaya. That's slightly more difficult to get towards. But at least with a plane path that cuts through the map, there's so much more opportunity to grab those vehicles earlier on and get going. Circle also very kind, central of the Northern Island, Sosnovka military base. We can practically put that out of our minds at this point in time. And this might just be a bit more of a compound-heavy finish based off of this. But we'll have to wait and see, because Circle's been doing some crazy things recently.
Seems fairly centralized this time around. All the time being the river the major factor, as it normally is with these mainland circles. So you go north, you stay south at the moment. South of the river, the lion's share of the land mass, but still very much anybody's game. Getting a little bit hot over towards the Yasnaya drops. BTR going past SEM9 and Aton as well. Both rotating in very similar positions, only a couple of 100 meters apart, so they'll definitely be aware of each other's presence. But right now, seeming like BTR just going to keep on trucking towards Yasnaya.
Yeah, coming off the back of that last game, we had a couple of teams actually break out just a little bit. D plus Kia still in 5th place right now, 93 points. But Alpha 7 shot up to 3rd place right now, 104 points. They are definitely shutting up our concerns so far with how they came into this tournament to today. Not far behind the 2 leaders with Vampire 155 and DRS with 125. Now, Vampire have had a huge amount of 2nd places this tournament, let alone the chicken dinners themselves, but it has been great to see the Vampires actually been able to stay very consistent. Yes, they have their breakout performances, but when they have to go into that survival mode, as Max put it on the desk, they certainly can do that too and just put up decent amounts of points, decent amount of eliminations to really solidify themselves up towards that 1st place. Now, we're heading into match 3 right now. There's only 3 more matches for either DRS or A7 to profit over that 25-point, that 50-point lead that they currently have over these 2 teams. It's going to be very hard to do. So right now, it feels more than anything, the 2nd place is the one that's up for grabs. If DRS don't continue on this very consistent streak, which we've seen them before. But Gladiators, 96 points. D plus Kia, 93, 89 in 6th place, and 86 in 7th place with FaZe. Right now, G Gladiators, if they don't pick up the pace a little bit, you know, they're at risk of falling out because a lot of teams are catching up right now.
It would be quite a turn of events if the Gladiators didn't make it, but we've seen it happen before when they do lose momentum. 4-point scoring opportunities still on the cards, Blank, with this match still available. And right now, when I'm looking at this bubble, I'm looking all the way down to 12th place as the teams that could potentially make this one. In 13th, R8, 52 points and below. It just doesn't seem feasible to be able to catch up that many points over 4 matches when you haven't really had that much momentum to start with. It would be a very, very spectacular performance from any of these teams, but you're looking at over a 30-point differential.
Yeah, and I mean, Aegon I've just pulled that kind of thing off. Because before this game, they were around about 50 points. Below, maybe? I'm not sure. I think they were around about 50 points, though. And I think for last year, too, Aegon, they truly were the comeback kings. And let's see if they can pull that off again here in the All-Stars tournament. 8th place right now, but they have to keep up with those games. Now, I think they were able to turn things around right on their final match last year. But this time, it's not the case. They're going to have to keep things going if they want to head towards that top 6 to get towards the main tournament. And again, though, 4 more point scoring opportunities. Like you say, that is enough. enought really just need to stay consistent now and hope some of these teams above them just fall off a bit.
But even then, is that enough? Because you're playing against a field of about 5 or 6 teams. When you're playing against one, you can kind of lean back on the idea that, okay, well, not really going to have that, or they're not really that likely to have a pop-off performance. But when you increase that sample size, right, when you have 6 teams playing off in 4 matches, it gets a little bit more likely that there is a threat of these teams having completely wild performances, right? So, sure, getting 6, 7 points a game, consistent, keep it up there. But you really want to be looking up towards those 15-point games, right? If you can get another one of those on, you're going to be so much safer.
I'd love to see that same graphic again, but just of enought post at, like, we got the post match. I want to see the pre of that last match on our angle, because I imagine they would not be sporting 5.86 average eliminations on our angle, which is really insane. Actually, they've got R rate now 0.86. Like, this is more reasonable for where they were beforehand. But again, crazy stuff going through from enought on that last match on our angle.
What was their average? I didn't catch it on the overlay.
5.86 average eliminations.
5.86.
So 6 a game.
And they've played how many air angles so far? With 2 game days played, they played 6. The 7th was the last one.
Yeah.
So that's 35 elims-ish.
Yeah.
They got 22 of those in that last game.
That's crazy, right? That is absolutely crazy that that's the case. So, I mean, they've certainly put up their performance there. They deserve that average elimination. Look at that already. Blade's taking down Bensu. So enought, they see the opportunity. They see the door crack open slightly, and they've wedged the foot between. They really want to push it all the way, and I'd love to see it happen.
It is starting to get to that point of a little bit of desperation to get these points on board.
Yeah. Crushing of the foot desperation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll sacrifice a metatarsal, maybe 2.
Yes, exactly.
Just to get in.
So,
it's worth a lot of money to be able to get into those top 6 spots.
yeah, it's worth more than a big toe. I'll tell you that now.
Well, I don't know.
125 grand?
Would you?
I'd hurt my big toe for 125 grand.
You don't have to, so that's the good news.
I'd say stub this desk right now and I'll give you 125 grand.
Stubbing, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
I'm going for that every day.
But really hard.
Oh.
As if you were
Like really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about the consequences.
Okay, fair play.
Because that toe injury could last you a lifetime, Blank.
At 125 grand.
Could last you a couple of years. 6
Be
years,
a good
maybe.
couple of years.
Yeah, maybe.
That's for sure. Next circle. Popping on screen soon. Obviously, we see a lot of teams actually heading towards the center here, around Rozhok area, really trying to secure that position between the river, making sure that they have those rotational paths despite wherever this circle goes next, because it could be hard down towards the south, it could be hard up towards that northern side. Yet to pop as of yet, but most teams are in this circle. And it looks like we're going to try and phase out this river, it would seem to me, and we're heading down towards Pachinki, but pretty awkward ground around Ruins and Sunken.
Some open territory, those headshot hills on the south side of that river.
Yeah.
Treacherous. Vampire moving in past Pachinki through that church area. Alpha 7 on the north side of the river will be queuing up behind FaZe to try and cross, you'd imagine. Very unlikely that they go for the Rozhok Bridge. Try and break out that way. SEM9 find themselves a morsel on the hillside, but it's one that bites back, unfortunately. It's DRS. Piranhas on the hills here. Kenny behind, trying to suppress. Rules still down, but being isolated and potentially covered off by the rest of his roster.
Yeah, DRS right now. That last game wasn't ideal. I thought the rotation was very cool up towards Everest side from the south. They really had to be explosive on that entry towards Everest, though, with some really good grenades, which we have seen them throw before. Just versus Alpha 7, they were a little bit too good with it.
A 1-for-1 trade there. I think Tam just got that rundown.
Haskiller took him out.
The rollover, yeah, that's unfortunate. Not quite quick enough on the draw, but DRS still plenty of firepower with Killer still alive. Tournament topping fragger right now. But it's not ideal when you're playing in DRS's shoes, right? Because you've got that second place that we were talking about with Alpha 7 looking a lot hotter today than they have done over the last 2. You want to defend that spot because there's, again, a lot of money for that second place.
Yeah, it's what you'd like to hold on to, 100%. The second place, I think you can be very proud of that in All-Stars, knowing that you're very much guaranteed to go in towards that top 6 now. DRS can take some of these risks to get some good games underneath their belt towards the end of the day. Gladiators down towards Pachinki side, moving up. Falcons also very much in the crunch right now, down towards the southeast. There's Sem9 around this area, Aegon I8, and DRS who are currently locked in combat with Sem9.
Tam still very low, looking to get that healing done. We'll be able to pop it finally. Not too much impetus for them to move right now, though. They'll have to get to some cover, and once they're there, they can establish Falcon. Other ideas, though, they open up on the tricycle. And Aton are there ahead as well. Kenny left for dead on the roadside. And the rest of the team careen themselves into even further trouble as the rest of the roster picked apart yet again.
Sem9 have had a pretty unfortunate tournament so far, just not finding the success they were looking for. Next circle heads towards school side and apartments. So a lot of capability to have a lot of teams in a very small area at the end of this one. D plus Gear currently have a 2-2 split over on school side. We'll most likely hold that for a little bit longer alongside with BTR. Vampires coming through Pachinki will be heading out on towards Pachinki Field. It's not the most ideal rotate. They could head towards Potato Hill and use the cover of that landmass to just pass up towards the eastern side. And with most of the players being dropped off early on towards the west, you know, that might be an option that a lot of teams do intend for.
Ferrari bringing up the rear on this train for Infinity IQ. Into very minimal cover here and very big amount of threat from D plus Kier as well. The nades start to pour over this ridge. Fabian has got an angle, lines it up perfectly. Nice little headshot to open the bidding. And the auction continues for the scalps of Infinity IQ over the top here, pushing forwards. Nades still in hand, not actually fully committing to this push because you can just keep this bombardment strong. Forest further away. Beautiful from Fabian. The rest of D plus Kia further down the hill, so they've got that fullback spot should they need it if Bigatron decide to push on up the hill.
I mean, these are just 2 players holding on to this position, so D plus Kia is doing a great job. And in Forest and Saden, hand in hand, they are a terrifying combo. Another nade over the top there, does a lot of damage. Puga falls at the feet of Ferrari, not able to quite get in the pit stop. And Falcons take down one of the players from Gladiators. They rock up towards his position. Six has a grenade in his hand, looking to send it over towards Matic, but he's pulling out the classic, doing something completely out of the ordinary. It's unpredictable.
Six is there, and they're completely unknown, and Matic drawn short on the rush for the tree. No cover to be found. Immediately flushed as well. Tixie's on the floor, 2 players alive, Kitsune and Meku. We said this is a team that needs to keep up the pace. They're not fully home and dry for the qualification spot, and when you lose 2 players like this, you do not want these teams around you to be doing well. But you're looking at down 1 D plus Kia, you're looking at Falcons, and you're thinking, these are teams that will chase, and they are doing so on this game.
The thing is, this Gladiators is all over the place at the moment. This is not the Gladiators that I'm used to. Matic, yes, sometimes he pulls out these weird little maneuvers, but more often than not, they're quite successful. Sometimes you see them go completely out the window, but a lot of these players on Gladiator's side are just not playing to their full potential here. It's a strange performance to be showing here in the All-Stars. Of only 3 more games to secure your place as well after this one. It's a bit terrifying to be playing like this and not upping the ante. Perhaps they can have some better games over on Miramar at the end of the day. But right now, there are some teams that are just a bit more deserving at this point in time, just objectively.
You need to prove it every step of the way if you want to feel like you deserve one of these spots. And if your metal cannot stand the test, will be corroded by the talents of the rest of the lobby. Falcons, 4 eliminations so far. 6th place right now, close to that bubble. Currently sits in 7th, that bubble, remember, because Alpha 7 have already qualified. That spot would be given to that 7th place team should they find themselves in the top 6. With them sat in 3rd right now, very likely that they will stay in that top 6.
I thought you were going to say something completely different there, like, with Alpha 7, the card Alpha 7 in play, we do now actually have 7 slots. That's how that works.
7 Worlds Gaming?
7 Worlds Gaming. Yeah, we've got a lot of 7s here. So we've got 7 slots instead.
How many 7s?
Which we actually don't. I do enjoy, though, our resident asthmatic S2G, who started sprinting and then began to wheeze and have completely come to a halt there. Very unfortunate to see. They're back in 10th place.
Absolutely, that's what I was thinking as well. Falcons lose a player close to Delta and DRS as well. Very difficult to move in for that res, for that save. But they'll have to try it nonetheless. Delta actually backed off the ridgeline, so potential. The duo from Gladiators sailing on past on the south side of Potato Hill as Falcons let that hold slip just a little bit, and in their place, they'll find a Yokohama Donuts Varel position as Missile sends out to the ridgeline as well.
Yeah, a bit easier to hold this down for the Yokohama Donuts as well, considering that a lot of these teams moving in from that southeast side will be pushing up towards their position. And there's not a lot of teams up towards the northwest that will push down towards the Yokohama Donuts. So they can be pretty comfortable to try and pick up some eliminations as these teams start to push in towards the circle itself. Gladiators take an absolute barrage of bullets coming through from the Vampires themselves. The vehicle's on fire, and they're careening all the way over towards I8 and BTR. This is so terribly dangerous.
Oh dear. Cut out Meku. Goes down. Yeah, Kitsude falls as well. Not really likely you survive a push like that with your vehicle smoking. With all these teams already occupying these positions. Falcons going to find a similar story as they try and rock straight on up to Vampire. Wow. This time Vampire hold the push very, very well. And yeah, that's Falcons with 4 players alive just 5 seconds ago. Taken down in 14th place.
It was over before it even began there. For the Falcons, they swooped in, and then suddenly were on their backs, no longer flying. Gyante tries to keep things alive, but the blue zone will take him down. And Delta just has to leave his boys behind at this point. At stage 4, impossible to get that res, especially with them being so far outside in the circle. Just wants to go for a little bit more of a survival play. 5 eliminations, though, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. D plus Kia also regrouped. I think that was an excellent hold on the 2-2 split. Now up towards school side. And the circle shifts towards the northwest.
This has been a couple of hard shifts in a row, Blank. I mean, you can see on the mini-map there in the top right, it's just gone northwest and northwest and northwest. And S2G are still on Rozhok Hill. This is where they drop, right? So, they drop a split between Rozhok Sunken all the way over to Ruins. They've regrouped here and just been here for so long.
Just couldn't go too far. They just could not go too far. There's no reason to. They've held into position. Rozhok Hill, great scouting spot as well to pick up information. The fact that it's been in this long, there's been no real reason to push outwards. I like Ikert's position, though, to try and hold off versus that. Carrillo spots the player, sending through like a missile. On the Yokohama Donut side, will immediately pop him out the vehicle.
Missile in the driver's seat now, Toe. Tries to lean out the window and get the spray down. It's good. They get the rollover, but unfortunately it's on themselves, onto Missile. Drop these smokes, looking for that res. BTR also looking to try and break out and move forward, gain ground, but D plus Kia shut the door. U-High first on the knock. Genfos close by, underneath the window. Just runs straight on past. D plus Kia not really taking any flack back their way. On this northeast side, playing through school, treacherous at the best of times.
The jocks in the gymnasium just jostling for dominant control over this building at the moment. BTR are struggling to get inwards, but they're all out. Coming around the corner with the DBSs, and it's over!
Oh my god.
Instantly. Back to the gymnasium. Pick up the weights again. Let's go.
Saden absolutely dismantles the position there. Really nice stuff. D plus Kia doing well. Vampire, though, against 2 players from Yokohama Donuts Barrel. The buggy goes up. and they go down. The nade over the top seals the deal as well from Schwepp, and that is perfectly placed. Yokohama Donuts Varel do go down, and Vampire playing with 4 into the headshot hills.
Again, Vampire, an extremely strong performance on the cards for them. Alpha 7 takes down Delta, DRS are now out. Their run stops short. 5 eliminations, though, it's not too bad. D plus Kia currently sporting 6 of those on their own. But Alpha 7 are really starting to rev things up a little bit.
Gladiators pretty happy that a lot of the teams behind them have already gone down. Falcon very, very close on those totals, but still just a little bit behind going into the latter half of today. Aegon I8 still alive and kicking with the 1 player, so unlikely that they get too much more value, but you've also seen FaZe and Infinity IQ both going down. So a lot of those threats for the Gladiators, where they needed to pick up that pace, have been assuaged this game, but they lose out on the opportunity to increase that lead over them.
I think a lot of these teams are, like you say, pretty happy with this situation. On the top side, keeps them safe for a bit longer. S2G have been encircling this position for quite some time, but I could just have that strong spot in the watchtower. Unfortunately for them, it won't be in the circle anymore. And S2G do have a strong position now to vie for a chicken dinner in this game and some more points to once again drag themselves out of 10th place.
Alpha 7, or the remnants thereof, Revo and Carrillo. 2 very powerful players that you cannot ignore in these close-range scenarios. Nades in hand, both of them looking for the explosion, but they're under siege right now by D plus Kia, who have fallen off, I would say, from yesterday's performance to today. It is unfortunate. Sal goes down first, Forrest next, and Revo just lighting up the stairway. Falls down finally, Fabian finds the flush, and Carrillo catapults into the swimming pool. Will be in the drink as well, not able to surface. And D plus Kia take down the duo from Alpha 7.
D plus DBS, apparently. They all had one on board. I think Revo is insanely good with it, as we saw, but coming against 4 of them himself, it's kind of his superpower and his kryptonite at the same time. Speaking of kryptonite, Super Andrew here to deal with R8. Looks through the window with the dinner plate now, pulls out the DBS.
Auto shotgun on the stairs to worry about, but he's across and into the building on the ground floor. ID upstairs, also looking for these shots. Vampire out in the open, but they have such good suppression onto the warehouse position. Nade up top finds a lot of damage onto ID. Last player standing on the inside, auto shotgun still lights up for 1, but it's not good for the second. Super Andrew throws on through. And Ragnarok now the last standing for R8, looking for the res onto SK-Ton. Romeo cowering under the gaze of Tony K.
S2G, Maya down in the sludge on the northern side. Just really struggling to get out from this position. Cute Loki will take a nice nade over towards Ragnarok there. Kelsey goes down. S2G just cannot escape, and it might be up to Crazy to pull out something special here. Ikud gets a little bit too close. Just the PP Bison in the hands.
S2G is still alive on the northeast side. And Ikud looking to try and change that. 2 players down. Kelsey gets enveloped by Aram's move forwards, who runs down Razy in the process. Hamzy trying to find some sort of answer, but it's not there. Forrest up the top, looking to try and cut them down. The circle cuts everybody out in these strong positions, except for the Vampires. They'll have to leave soon.
Currently, Silas trying to keep Ikud at bay. Mazexis have lived a long time here too. 2 eliminations so far for S2G. Nothing too spectacular. You got D plus Kia now finally making their move, pushing in from the eastern side. Starts to take some shots. Silas is there to shut them down, to silence them.
Oh, that is a devilish shift for these teams on the ridgelines. Favors Vampire with the 4 players they have out on the southwest side.
An unknown turtle.
Yes. 9 eliminations, as you say, for D plus Kia. 5 of them.
Look, there he is.
Being picked up by... Oh, I see what you're talking about. I was so lost on that.
It's fine. They're trying to help him out as D plus Kia to upturn him, but unknown, he's playing quite an interesting tactic. There's no way there's a player in there. There's no way you think there's a player in there.
I think you might be right. I think that could be pretty devilish.
Yeah. I'm actually interested to see how many teams ignore him.
Oh, he's dead.
Oh, never mind. They blew up the vehicle. They're nothing short of actually assuring themselves towards this win of D plus Key. You talked about them being not as powerful in yesterday's games for today, and I think they've definitely stepped up here, and it was much needed. They had a strong start, but I think they defended the school marvelously so far. Vampire, though, are on for themselves another chicken dinner in this tournament.
On the south side of this circle, they've got suppression onto S2G, who are themselves very close to D plus Kia, but look at the nades in hand right now for all of these players. S2G taking a bold push up the ridgeline and avoiding a lot of the damage from these nades, but finally one finds its mark. Hamzy with the M249 tries to unleash, but will be suppressed once again. Vampire lose Ravenclaw on the back line, but Yangon Galacticos really can't do too much about it. The burn is perfectly placed from Schwepp. And Murnat just has to sit down and accept his fate.
Vampire are too good with it, man. The Molotovs over the top side, just burning out the opposition. And Vampire are anything from burned out. They just can continue to be this bright light amongst all these teams. They've got so much voltage going through them to continue being this strong over the 3 days, never letting up the entire time. Now in this position, this is a very strong finish position for them. D plus Kia will have to hit some extremely good shots. Seiden has done a very good game so far, 7 eliminations. Forrest with 3, Fabian with 3 of his own. But getting across this field with the DBSs that did them so well earlier on, it's impossible.
Tony K just has so much ammo as well still on the AUG and the Mini 14. It's going to be, as you say, close to impossible to make this work, but the smokes are out first.
This was the circle that D plus Kia are waiting for as well. It's the one to come closer to them. And obviously Murphy's Law dictates that it must go away as Tony K unleashes already.
They've allowed one to break out wide, but it's not really going to be the best result because of it. Ravenclaw snaps the jaw shut. And now they're playing 4 versus 1. Forrest, the last to stand in the face of the Vampires. And they're looking to eclipse the circle. They move forwards, establish the stranglehold, and Vampire right strong into the divot. The roll down isn't great. Schwepp, hang on a minute, it goes a little bit long. Forrest looks for the DBS actually in the divot, but it's finally Tony K who turns his attention their way. Ravenclaw is down on the back. 2 players fall in their face, but the Vampires pull it back together in the end. Goodness me, nerve-wracking, but still phenomenal performance from Vampire to play in the open ground on the Headshot Hills. 24 points on the game, and they've solidified themselves as the team to beat.
It's tough to cut through the forest there, but they finally make their way out into the open. And the crowd is happy with this one. Vampire looks relieved with this one as well, because this all but secures their first place at this point in time. But the performance of DRS today, they've fallen down a bit, but Vampire each and every single